Well, hello, everybody. We are back again for yet another interview. You are not going to want to miss this one. We're talking to a man named Dave, who was associated with the Witnesses for about 30 years. He served as an elder. He saw a lot of things, and you are going to enjoy hearing his story, or I should say stories, because he's got several of them. Dave, thank you for being with us on JWStruggle.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for flying me in. Your studio looks really nice here.
Yeah, I flew you in on my dime, and I better get my money's worth.
Your microphone kind of sounds like a telephone, though. You need to.
Yeah, it is a little phone-like. All right, I'll work on that for the next. I'll work on that for the next interview. So,
All right.
so first of all, Dave, people probably want to know what your background is. I mean, how did you get associated with Jehovah's Witnesses, and where did your journey with them begin?
Well, I was raised a Catholic, so I'm none of my immediate family were witnesses, but in 1980, my girlfriend at the time got witnessed to at her door and got placed the Truth book. Remember the old blue Truth that leads to eternal life book?
I do, the blue bombshell.
Yeah. Yes. And being a good boyfriend, I was interested in it because she was interested in it. And so we're going through it, and it started to sound interesting to me. And I remember being in my parents' I was living at home. I was in my parents' basement with her, studying the book and looking. I can't remember what pictures were in there, but pictures of paradise and waterfalls and baskets of fruit and all that stuff. And I remember going upstairs and asking my parents, "Where's the family Bible? I wanted to look up these scriptures." And so that's probably the last thing my parents thought that their son and his girlfriend were doing in the basement is studying the Bible, but there we were. And so we just kept, it sounded more and more interesting. She wanted to study. They kept going back to her house to want to conduct a study, and so they did like a dual study. They had a brother come in as well to study with us, and we eventually got baptized. So it was about 6 months of studying. But the truth book, I remember being switched out, and because there was new light, but found out later is because different references that were alluding to 1975 were in the old book. But I didn't know that at the time. Obviously, it's funny, years later, I remember vaguely being switched out, and we were wondering why. But anyway, it was very tough, me breaking away from the Catholic religion, no more Christmas, all that, no more Mother's Day. My mom had a really hard time with that. I remember receiving the persecution. I remember my mom slapping me, saying, "How dare you?" And my dad saying, "You could have been anything but a Jehovah's Witness and it would have been okay." So the organization, though, or, people who were teaching me had me all set up for that and ready for that. That just solidified in my mind I must be doing the right thing because it's this persecution, So there I was in the organization, actually, and my girlfriend and I got baptized together, one of those dual baptisms. You remember that, Eric?
I do remember those.
Yeah, I think they did away with those shortly after that. I don't remember much about that afterwards.
Anything fun, beautiful, or joyous, they generally tend to get rid of.
Yeah, that's about right. But, and it's funny because we weren't married, because it's usually for married couples or those engaged, and my girlfriend at the time was saying we're engaged, but I never proposed, but I just went along with it, and we got baptized together. Anyway, caused a lot of problems with my family, and then actually my girlfriend and I broke up, and there I was alone. I got rid of all my friends, like to encourage. Oh, another thing, too, is my father started reading up, I don't know what he read, but, apostate literature, trying to look into this organization to tell me things. I remember him sitting me down and telling me about Miracle Wheat and different things, but I didn't want to hear anything of it because, I was already indoctrinated with the mindset of anybody who says anything negative about the organization is apostate and is from Satan. So I wouldn't have anything to do with that either.
He probably, if I can interject, Dave, he probably found Snell's book, 30 Years a Watchtower Slave.
Is that in there? I have it. I remember reading it. I couldn't remember if that was in there, but I bet that was was
Well,
that?
that's one of the few books that we had prior to Ray Franz. Although by this point, Ray's book came out in what? Right around 82, 83, wasn't it?
83, yeah. But now this is 81, so
Okay.
it was a couple years prior to that.
Yeah. So that was right after all the expulsions of all the brothers or the Bethel lights that opposed them in Ray Franz's time.
So I'm trying to make new friends. I'm all by myself now because me and my girlfriend broke up, like I said. But I very quickly found another sister, and we started dating. And I'm making new friends. One thing too is I'm a musician and songwriter, just amateur. But that's my love. That's what I like to do. I actually quit a band that I was in. We started playing bars around town here because I became a witness. I, got rid of all that. Can't play in bars and be a witness. But I wanted to still do something in regard to music, and so I was trying to find ones in the congregation who had an interest in music, and so I found a few. We formed a band in the congregation, which was unheard of at the time, at least in our area, and so I was progressing in the congregation and progressed to be a ministerial servant, but I still had this band. I don't mean we weren't playing Metallica or anything, but, Beatles and, writing our own stuff, and we tried to keep it low-keyed, nothing too heavy, but it caused friction in the congregation because we were the only congregation in this area that had a rock band in it. So the elders tried to, at one point, they set me aside, gave me an ultimatum: either you're a ministerial servant, either you're a ministerial servant or you're in this rock band. Choose. And so I had to get rid of the band. At least we did things together, on our own, and maybe wrote music and recorded for ourselves. And then other friends, other younger ones saw we had a rock band, and they started rock bands who were heavier. It was kind of funny. And I think it's more common now in congregations where people get together and play music. But anyway, another interesting thing that came up regarding music was in 1989. I went to see a concert, which was in our congregation was pretty sacrilegious. Paul McCartney came to town or nearby, and me and a friend, one of the other band members, went to go see Paul McCartney. A couple days later, I get a phone call from an elder saying, "I heard you went to a rock and roll concert.
Oh my, you're in trouble."
We want to talk to you about it. Now, right around that time, this is 1989, a couple Awake articles, the magazines came out that had articles in it about your choice in music and even concerts and so forth, to be selective, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, okay, they want to talk to me about it after field service on Saturday. So I was like, great, we'll talk about it. And so I had my Awake magazines in my book bag, and I'm all ready to have a discussion. Well, the discussion was not a discussion at all. I never got to pull out the magazines. It was to tell me that I'm removed as a ministerial servant because I went to this concert.
Oh my.
Yeah. So what's interesting about it too is that I'm waiting. They have to wait until the society writes back. The brothers, to acknowledge before they actually announce it. So by this time, I was giving public talks and so forth, and having responsibilities in the hall. And so I'm waiting. I kept asking the PO. I was like, well, did you get it back yet? No, not yet. No, not yet. Finally, it came back. They rejected it and said, no, we're not going to remove him as a ministerial servant.
Wow, that's unusual.
Yeah, I know. That's what I hear. So it was mostly the body of elders were kind of up in age, the older ones who were set in their ways and have their opinions, and they thought that this was good reason to nip this in the bud right here. And it didn't work, so I got to still be a ministerial servant and progress to be an elder, too. So
that had to have been Jehovah's Holy Spirit, Dave. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm being sarcastic.
Apparently, I know. Apparently, the brothers in New York must have been Beatles fans or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they were.
But they said they might have been there too, for all I know.
You probably got. See what happens is these kinds of things land in the service desk, and you probably
Okay.
got some up-and-coming 27-year-old service department, kid that saw that and went, that is going beyond the things written, and I'm going to set those elders straight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you definitely got lucky on that one.
Yeah, I would have loved to seen the letter, the Dear Dummy letter they got. That our elders got back to say no.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I never saw that letter.
All right, so let me get this straight. So you've come into the truth, what they call the truth, what we thought was the truth, around 1980.
Mm-hmm.
You studied for about 6 months. You make rapid progress. You make all these huge changes. Your family is obviously dismayed for good reason.
Right.
You quit your job at the bar playing music because the elders told you to. Then all of a sudden you go to see Paul McCartney. Oh, he's very satanic.
Yeah, I was told that the song Yellow Submarine was about drugs, and so
they're all about drugs. Yeah. So you go to see this concert, all of a sudden the elders exert their authority and try to remove you or delete you. They're overruled, and then you said you progressed to elder. So how much longer did that take for that process?
Well, let's see. I think I became an elder early 90s. So a couple years later, I became an elder. I guess I was kind of like the thorn in their side, the guy that wouldn't go away. But Jehovah's Holy Spirit got me to be an elder for a little while.
Sounds about right. I was made an elder in 94.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, go on.
I was a theocratic ministry school overseer. What were you?
Yeah, I did that, and I was service overseer at the same time, and that was not fun.
Well, you must have had just a small body of elders then.
We had, for a while we had 4, and then we were down to 3, and so yeah, I was doing double duty, and it was a grind, let me tell you.
Yeah, being an elder for me is difficult because there was like I said, it was mostly an older body who were set in their ways. Another thing about them is that they had been elders for many years, and they were tired and wanted to kind of coast, I think. And so me being new blood was like, well, let's get him going, so we don't have to do so much.
Load him down with lots of stuff.
Yes, exactly. One of the things, too, and I was trying to be as gung-ho as I could, and because I thought, okay, I'm not going to do music anymore, and I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone. By this time, I'm married and have a daughter, and a lot of responsibilities at the hall. And, I remember going to elders' school and being shown about, for instance, shepherding calls was not being done at all in our congregation.
Oh no! And you're supposed to have a shepherding program.
That's what I'm just about to say.
Yeah, go on.
So I was the one that said, well, this is Jehovah's Spirit directing me. I'm going to get together a shepherding program. So I set up something for all the elders, put up a schedule so that we could get everybody done within a year's time. I even worked up an outline, just as a suggestion, to say, here's something to make it easy for you all, and gave it all to them and set up the system. Nobody followed it but me. No cooperation whatsoever. After we just came back from the school, from this elder school, explaining to us these things that, brothers, these things need to be done. I thought, well, good, everyone's going to jump in line because we just heard all this. No one cooperated. I think maybe one elder went on one call and that was it. So I was the only one who even tried. So.
Well, your heart was in the right place, right?
I was trying.
So let me interject and ask you a question at this point. So, was there any doubts or inklings that something was seriously wrong here at this point in your mind, or were you still just doing your best and plugging along, and there wasn't any moment yet, or was there?
There were starting to come things, and I just wanted to say first is that, as you well know, we're taught if we have any doubts or anything doesn't sound right, you wait on Jehovah. That's what we're told.
Yeah, wait on Jehovah and stuff it down every night while you drink wine, beer, or whatever, or take an antidepressant, whatever you need to do to stuff it down.
Exactly. You just keep pushing it back, trying to ignore it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, different things are coming up, and there's a number of them. One of them, and I don't know where it was written, but one of the first things that jumped out at me was the quote from President Fred Franz about baby rats grow up to be adult rats.
Yeah, I remember that.
That jumped out at me like a I don't know.
Yeah,
like
and wasn't
it's like, oh my God.
And Dave, wasn't that his answer to, well, what about, God destroying children at Armageddon? Isn't that cruel? And then wasn't that the context?
Yeah, the context was regarding how the generation was coming to a close. I think this was like around 1990, 91, something like that. And the generation, they were projecting it to be in the next few years, insinuating in the next few years. And he was asked a question about, for instance, China, because they hadn't had many inroads into China yet. There's no way you're going to get to a billion people in China. What about all them? What about even the children? And Fred Franz says, well, baby rats grow up to be adult rats. In other words, they're SOL. God's just going to kill them, and we're not going to care about it.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that typifies the leadership's feeling towards the little people. The little people, the rank and file, has always been that way. I mean, when I was in Bethel, I saw it. Other people saw it. They always felt that way. One governing body member one time said, well, if we make this change, I think this was from one of Ray's books, well, if we make this change, we're going to lose some, but it won't matter because we'll get a whole bunch more new ones coming in.
Right, exactly. I was just thinking about that regarding, I saw a YouTube video of somebody saying that just recently, 1 month, I think in 2013, there was 1 month that they had an article, I'm trying to think, about how bad it is for religions to pass the plate and to ask for money, and how it's not according to Scripture. Religion shouldn't be doing that. And then 3 months later, they have a study article outlining all the different things, how you should have them as the beneficiary of your wills, and give them your jewelry, and every possible thing that you could think of that you could give to them monetarily. Mm-hmm. Here's the different ways you can donate to us.
Well, and also
when we see that, after you've been around for a number of years, you recognize the hypocrisy right away. But the newbies don't see it.
No.
And they probably realize, well, okay, eventually after you've been around for a number of years, they leave. They know there's a big turnover of people, but they know they're always going to get new newbies. And so they just keep going.
Yeah, fresh bodies for the machine.
Right.
I just recently looked at a scan from Awake, I think it was, Watching the World, and it had a little cartoon figure of a man in church, and there's a big ATM machine in there, and the article was about how churches are now accepting ATM machines.
Right.
And of course now they're putting them in circuit assembly halls.
Yep, very interesting.
Okay, so little things are starting to not fit, little tiny splinters in your mind that are nagging at you, and then what happened?
Well, a couple more. I mean, there's quite a few red flags. Another one that bothered me personally was Fred Franz died. They had a full-page ad in one of the magazines with a big old picture of him with a little commentary. It was a full-page thing, like maybe the back cover or one of the near back covers of an Awake, maybe, or the Watchtower. And I thought we weren't supposed to be honoring people, especially, it isn't really known about these people's lives. And here is this, someone who has been faithful for all those years died. That bothered me. It's like, that was another little red flag that jumped in my head. Another one was me conducting the Revelation book in the book studies.
Oh, I conducted that thing 2 out of the 3 times that we went through it, and I hated it.
Wasn't it excruciating?
It was excruciating.
It was like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, the second trumpet blast represents Judge Rutherford's proclamation at this assembly at Cedar Point, Ohio, which said blah, blah, blah. It's like, really? What reason is that that we are supposed to believe this just because you say so. That's blind faith. The whole book is just asking us to have blind faith in what they've come up with and how they fulfilled Scripture.
Yeah, I think it was trumpet gas, actually. No.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Okay. So you're conducting the Revelation book. Yeah.
What's that? Go ahead.
So you
I was going to say the scorpion tail represents the stinging message of the Watchtower towards Christendom's religions and all this stuff. I mean, I was just rolling my eyes with every paragraph. It's like, all right, paragraph 12. You're just like, really? You guys are buying all this? I don't. But being an elder, you can't make like you don't believe this. You got to play the role. So that bothered me a lot. Just like, this just doesn't sound right to me. It can't be right. But I guess I'm supposed to just wait on Jehovah with this,
Yep. So at this point, are you a family man now? I mean, are you,
Yeah, I'm a family man. Let's see. Okay, now I stepped down as an elder. I'll just cover that just briefly. We went to another one of these elder schools. I forget what they're technically called, but
Kingdom Ministry School.
There you go. And something was brought out saying, if there's something in your past that's never been revealed, to bring it out and to clear yourself before Jehovah and blah, blah, blah. You may need to remove yourself as an elder for a while to do it. There was something in my past, like probably everybody. My wife and I at that time had done some things before we got married, blah, blah, blah. So I used this and this was 10 years before, okay? 10 years ago. So I thought, well, I'll kind of in the back of my mind say, well, I'm so overworked, and I have these little red flags in my mind anyway. This would be a good way to get out of this.
Yeah, here's your out.
Being an elder, So I went forward and confessed, what went on about 10 years ago. And they basically said, no, it's all right. The statute of limitations was up. Because I was an elder, I was in good standing and respected, blah, blah, blah. They would let it go. But I put my foot down basically. I said, no, my conscience doesn't, is going to bother me. I need to remove myself as an elder. It's like, you're not going to get away with that. Because they wanted me to keep working. They didn't want to do what I was doing. Take up the slack.
Okay, hold on, Dave. I got to interject. This riles up a lot of people, what you're talking about, because there's a loophole in the Secret Elders Handbook. It was right. It was in the handbook you were using, and now in the new one, Shepherd the Flock. I believe it's on page 37. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look it up. But in there it says, if an elder several years ago committed a gross immorality or gross sin, if he has evidence of God's Holy Spirit upon him and he is truly repentant, he can be retained. So basically that's code for, as long as a few years went by and you're not doing it anymore, then the rules don't apply to you, and you can keep being an elder and keep being the big cheese, even though you just DF'd, poor Joe Schmo for the same dalliance as you. Right, exactly. Yeah. So they wanted to use the loophole on you, and you said, no, it bothers my conscience. So this was a smart move. I'm sure you probably wish you would have stuck with it. So, exactly. Okay, so go on. So you're deleted for a while, and during that period, what goes on?
Well, then they're trying right away to encourage me to come back, to become an elder again quickly. Then they're saying, well, the process of becoming an elder again is going to be really fast now because you have all this experience. Well, you can become a servant, and then the next time the CEO visits you, you probably become an elder again, because we need you, brother. We need you, brother. Yeah, of course you need us. You need me because you need someone to do the school and do all the other stuff I was doing. That's what I'm thinking in the back of my mind. But I gullibly went ahead with that. I guess I just liked praise, I suppose. But I remember my daughter at the time saying, "I'm so proud of you when you were an elder." So I was like, Yeah, okay.
You know what though, Dave? That's human nature, and I can honestly say, I mean, I gave into that. There was times when you would go and give a talk in another Kingdom Hall, and people would just be falling all over themselves, trying to go up and shake your hand and tell you what a great talk you gave. And I mean, you get used to that. You like that. Especially when it's 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday evening, and you're recording everybody's field service time. That's the most thankless job in the world, and it's such drudgery. So, of course, you crave and you like, having the friends elevate you and put you on a pedestal. So, and your family means well, but they do it too.
Right. That's the one thing that I said that I enjoyed doing of all the things was giving talks. I guess I liked writing out an outline and going up and delivering it. I was proud of myself. And then, like you said, you get the accolades for it, and we're going to take you out to Applebee's, or we're going to treat you at our house.
Oh, yeah. Order anything you want. Order anything you want. Pig out.
Yeah. You're a rock star for that day. But I mean, you get good at it. I mean, you do it enough times, and I can tell, I can even hear in your videos that you sound like you're still giving public talks, only you're directing it in a good way now. I think it's something that you learn. If you can say you got anything good out of the experience, I think that I'm, better at presenting myself if I'm speaking or performing, So.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks a lot, Dave. Okay, I think our time is up. No.
Wait, I'm on my stage here.
All right, what, you got more? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so I got to be an elder again. That went on for a few years now. My wife and I getting divorced. There was a long, dragged-out thing, and I will give you a little bit of detail, is my wife had an affair with a sister in the congregation.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Both in good standing. They had been friends. I mean, her and her husband, this other sister, were good family friends for many years. So anyway, that happened, and it had been going on for a while under my nose. Okay. Very humbling experience. Now, when it was revealed, when I inquired about it, and she, confessed to that to me, of course, call the elders, and so the elders, but the elders, as you know, they're not trained in situations and how to give, adequate counsel, especially with a delicate matter like this. The sister, so weird to say it, but the sister that my wife had an affair with was a very close friend of who was the PO right then. I think they may have went to school together, grew up kind of together, very close friends. Also, this sister had a problem with depression, was on antidepressants and so forth. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when the elders were counseling us shortly after this to try to help us mend ways and, maintain the marriage and so forth, that particular elder said that because my wife still wanted to have sister as a friend, I, of course, did not want that. But that elder said, well, it's up to me, but he was encouraging them to continue to be his friends.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So then I was the bad guy, of course. And my wife was like, well, the elders said it was okay. And I'm like, look, I'll forgive you for this, but if it was a man that she had an affair with, that I can't imagine that ever being on the table. It's like, well, yeah, we're encouraging you to still be friends. That'd be ridiculous.
Yes.
But because of it being too, they didn't know how to handle it, and I feel that the PO was, that elder was blinded by the fact that he was close friends with her, and and by the way, neither of them were disfellowshipped at that point. One of them, the sister was publicly reproved, and my wife was privately reproved at that time. So inevitably, as you could probably see this as the next step, yes, they did continue the affair, and they both ended up being disfellowshipped. But one thing that I did want to say is I just knew that was wrong. It was mishandled, and shortly after that, we had our assembly, and the district overseer was there, and I decided to speak with him personally about it. And when he heard about the situation, he was livid, and he said, "No, I'm going to handle this. I'm taking care of this." And so he, as far as the encouraging, as far as encouraging that friendship to continue between the two, my wife and the sister.
Well, yeah, and that was a contributing factor in them continuing their relationship.
Right. So the district overseer contacted, the local elders who were handling the matter, and they took it upon themselves then to kind of act as policemen, to kind of catch them together, alone, whatever. Even staking out
the
sister's home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in order to make sure that I am, quote, scripturally free to remarry.
Oh my God! I was told to be the chairman on this matter one time, and this guy had been seen all around town kissing on this woman who wasn't his wife. They assign me to this. The body does. Okay, fine. And then they tell me to stake out his business. He gets there every morning at 5 a.m., get down there at 4:59 and wait for him.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said,
wow.
Brothers, I'm not staking out. I'm not doing a stakeout. I'm not doing it. And then two of these adults sitting next to me both raised their hands and said, "Oh, we'll do it." And I said, "Okay, fine.
Wow.
You go ahead and do it because I'm not doing it." So, yeah,
wow.
They love the stakeout. So, anyways, they get DF, the district overseer steps in, clears all that up. Your head is spinning. You're almost single again, or you're going to be single again. And then what happened?
Yeah, so I decided to, I'm single. We go through with the divorce and all that. I remove it as an elder. I'm kicked out, I guess you could say. Now, in between time, this went on for like a year and a half of me going back and forth. Is the marriage going to end in divorce? That we're going to stay together? I wanted to forgive her, but this kept going on, and the elders were definitely not helping matters. At one point, when I found out that the affair continued, I blew a gasket, called her some names, kicked a hole in the wall at my house, and just, kind of went berserk. Because of that, it got back to the elders, and I'm pretty sure it got back to the elders through this sister. And they sat me down and said they have to remove me as an elder because of that.
Because you lost your temper.
Obscene language. What's that?
Yeah, you lost your temper.
Right. And actually, I remember the elders even saying, I remember sitting in the back room and them saying, if I was in your shoes right now, I probably would have done the same thing. But because of the circumstances, we're going to have to remove you as an elder. I really wasn't that sad about that, to be honest with you.
Good.
Because after all that had happened, and then other red flags I didn't even mention to you were going on in my head anyway. I was starting to wake up. And so it's like, that's totally fine. I'm in a much better place now. A year or two later, I found my current wife, and, life is good. So, this is an experience that I felt I needed to go through, just in life. I needed to go through in order to get to something much better in my life. So,
well, good for you. Good for you. That's I love to hear things like that. And it's amazing how often we do hear that when we investigate, when we look into people that have left the witnesses, they have left the Watchtower mindset and culture. They don't spiral into oblivion. Usually their life gets easier and less stress-free as a result. Now, I will say this, David, I think you skipped over a couple things. You jumped right to the "I'm so happy now" part, which is good. But now, so you get removed as an elder again, and then did you just fade out and say, "I'm not going back to the hall," or what?
Well, yes, but it took many years still. Even though I wasn't an elder, I was still, plugging away. I wasn't as gung-ho as I was, probably because more red flags were coming up. Another one that bothered me, well, it was slightly before the whole divorce thing, but the 1995 change in understanding about the generation really hit hard with me.
Yeah.
I remember vividly sitting there and thinking to myself, oh my God, they need to say something to cover their ass, because I've been up on the platform teaching and going door to door, even Bible studies with people, telling them Live Forever book about the generation, and in conjunction with the scripture in Psalms saying, 70 years, or if it's special mightiness, 80 years, and because the society was putting that along with 1914, so that takes you at the very least to 1994.
Psalms 90,
What a
Psalms, yeah, Psalms.
fool I look like.
Psalms 90:10, special mightiness, 70 or 80 years, blah blah blah. So do the math. In Matthew chapter 21, beginning of wars. Do the math.
Yep.
Yeah, I did that little calculation many times at the door to prove that it was going to have to come before the end of the 90s, and
it makes us all look like idiots or fools.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so 1995 comes. They better say something, and this is what they came up with: this new understanding of generation, which was ridiculous to me. So, but once again, it was like, okay, wait on Jehovah. This doesn't seem right, along with all the other things. So it was just another thing that was mounting in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Oh, another one was around this time. There was a friend of mine who was a member of the congregation. He was a friend for a while, but he had a really big problem with humility. He had a pride problem, to beat the bad. To this day, I've never met anybody who had such a serious problem with pride. He would put you down to elevate himself, mercilessly. He got to be a ministerial servant, which, we could kind of stomach. It's like, well, he's assisting, he's just helping out, But, the reason why this is an issue, it should be an issue for people who are paying attention, is because the scriptures supposedly outline the qualifications for becoming an elder, okay? Which is what I'm leading to next. When they announced that he was appointed as an elder, a number of people's jaws dropped that day. It's like, how could Jehovah not see that he had this huge problem with pride?
Oh, yes, the Holy Spirit, capital H, capital S, was out to lunch that day. Apparently.
It's like, well, what lesson could there possibly be? I mean, this would go, if all this is true, and these are the qualifications for this office of overseer, how could that have been overlooked? The end of that story was within a year, that elder had an affair with the ministerial servant's wife, and there's a conspiracy to, become her husband and take the kids and all this kind of stuff. So he was disfellowshipped, obviously removed as an elder, and disfellowshipped within a year of him being appointed as an elder.
Boy.
But why would Jehovah have done that? If Jehovah's Spirit is behind every appointment, every decision that's made, there's no way that could have happened. I know it's a personal thing that happened just within our congregation, but it was a big red flag to me as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, yet another contradiction with what they say and what happens in reality.
Right. Another thing was the organization. The literature has always said over and over how Jehovah's always had an organization. All through the history of mankind, and they always point to the flood. But that always bothered me because it doesn't take an Einstein to look at the history of mankind as much as we know. And where was, quote, Jehovah's organization all through, after Jesus left the planet until Russell came? Where was Jehovah's organization then? I know occasionally they'll have an article about the Waldenses or these maybe individual people here or there who the society recognized as standing firm for God's principles, but it would be just like a very small group for a small number of years, and it was gone. There's no way that was Jehovah's organization all through all of history. I tried to explain this to some of my friends too a little bit later. It's like, that's not true. Jehovah hasn't always had an organization. If that was the case, what organization was there before Russell came around?
Yeah, well,
he came up with something new.
Well, and that's actually one of the first YouTube videos I ever made. We're going back 2 years ago, and one of the points was the Noah and the flood. Noah was supposedly God's organization. Well, that was 8 people. That's not an organization. That's a family group. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that whole notion of an organization is a fantasy that cements and buttresses their power base, and that's why they perpetuate it.
Exactly. So I started seeing through all these things. And after a while, then now this is to maybe 2005. So I started recognizing that every Watchtower study article had the moral of every Watchtower study article was obey us. Maybe it came at paragraph 20, but maybe sometimes it came at paragraph 5. It was always the study article could be entitled something. So when I was going to the Watchtower studies, I was just looking for when they were going to lower the boom and say, you need to obey us. Because, the title of the article could be something like, how to apply the Christ-like personality, which, okay, that could be interesting. Let's see what this is about. Usually, always the moral was, in order to do this, you need to follow what the slave says. You need to obey us in order to have the Christ-like personality, or whatever subject it is. It was insulting my intelligence to even sit there and listen. Because it's like, okay, when's it going to happen? Okay, we're now in paragraph 10. Is it going to happen yet? No. There it is. There's the, you got to obey us. So it's like, why am I even coming here? Why am I even going to meetings? I think that was when I really woke up. And, one thing, too, is my father-in-law had woken up a number of years before. And he would, little by little, put little points in there when we're together, things that he had read on, in Ray France's book, for instance. And I would never have anything to do with it. I'd say things like, well, where did you read that? And he'd say, well, I'd rather not say. And I'd say, well, I'd rather not hear it then.
Oh.
Things like that. But then little by little, those little seeds were starting to take root along with the red flags that have been going off in my brain for the past 10 years. And, and then catching how every Watchtower article talks about obey us, it was time. It's like, this can't be. And my wife, it was happening to her at the same time. We started talking about it, and it was exciting. As much as it was disturbing to know that we spent all these years in this organization, it was exciting too because I was sharing it with her. She was waking up at the same time. I remember us going on walks at the park and just discussing, well, if this isn't true, then that's not true, and that means this. And it was exciting. And I remember us getting Ray France's books and just reading it. We'd read it together. It'd be like, okay, now you read a few pages. We'd be even laying in bed before we go to sleep. It's like, okay, now it's your turn to read. And it was exciting. It was an exciting experience waking up.
I love that.
So,
I have to interject here, Dave. I love hearing that because that is how it should be. You and your mate, you guys should be best friends. You should be able to talk these things through and then discover them together. And I think that's beautiful. That's wonderful. Hats off to your lovely wife, and keep going. I'll stop talking now.
No, well, that's kind of the end in a sense. We read Ray France's books. I started looking online for. I started just reading, just in general, whatever I wanted to read. About spirituality, about reincarnation, about the floodgates were open. It doesn't have to be, well, the society doesn't approve of this crap. I could read anything I want. So it was exciting to formulate my own beliefs according to what resonated with me.
Yeah,
what sounded right to me.
And that's true freedom right there. That's true freedom.
Exactly.
Now what year was this, according to your recollection, Dave?
Okay, this is about 4 years ago. So, 2010. It's 2009 because I found my old book bag and I found my last slip that I was supposed to give a talk, and it was 2009, and I never gave it. So it was in 2009 is when this all was happening.
Okay,
so for the past 4.5 years.
Okay, so you and your wife, you wake up to TAT, the truth about the truth, around 2009, and then was there some conscious decision, well, okay, we need to fade, or we need to move away, or we're just going to disassociate ourselves. I mean, those are some of your choices. So what did you do?
Well, fade. The only reason, well, first of all my friends, quote unquote friends, all saw that I wasn't going to meetings anymore. I had a good friend who I was playing music with, because we started, I said earlier that you don't play in bars if you're a witness, well, I started doing that anyway. Me and a friend of mine who was a witness got to be doing that on weekends, and then he saw that I wasn't going to meetings anymore, so he abandoned me. He said, I'm not going to do this with you anymore. And then all my friends around me were abandoning me. There's even a particular person that abandoned me that we had a small conversation about.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I made, just to interject so our listeners know what's going on. I made friends with a witness who happens to be in a similar line of work to me. Oh my goodness, 10 years ago. And he happens to live across the country from me, but not too far from where you're at. And then we find each other, and then it turns out, hey, do you know this guy? And you go, yeah, I know this guy. I used to be in his congregation, or whatever. So,
right.
Small world.
He was one of my band members.
That's right, because he's a musician. That's right.
Early '80s. So anyway.
Right. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so all my friends abandoned me, just because I'm not going to meetings. But the reason why I didn't want to, even though I was tempted to, write a letter of disassociation, the only person that is a concern for me is my mother-in-law. My wife's mother is a wonderful person. She'd do anything for you. She's involved in the organization. She's the only one. I don't have any family. My daughter's, actually my daughter did get baptized, but she hasn't. She faded, years ago too.
Good for
before
her.
I did. And so because of my mother-in-law, I just decided to do a fade. And I really didn't get much attention from the elders trying to contact me much at all. They just kind of let me go, and that's totally fine with me.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't move away. You and your family just pretty much just stopped going, and you got the de facto shun. They started treating you like you were, you weren't part of the club anymore, just
right.
because you didn't come. So does that bring us up to today? I mean, have you had any good experiences in talking to any of these ones and helping any of them get out?
Well, I put little, there's certain ones that I can't speak with, very little that I speak with today. There's one actually, when you sent me a text earlier today and said, hey, is this still on for today? The one last witness that still speaks with me happened to be over the house when we were talking, so I'm down to one now. And I talk to him, I tell him everything. I mean, the truth about the truth. I don't think there's anything I hold back, and he makes excuses for it, but he agrees with a lot of what I say. Hopefully that'll make some inroads in time. I don't have any success stories to tell. Is that I brought so many people out, but I put a little bit here and there cautiously because I value my relationship with my mother-in-law. To be honest.
Well, she sounds like a sweet lady, and I hope that she probably does appreciate your position and what you've done to try to preserve it. And what you said, I slightly disagree with. There is a success story here, and the success story is you and your wife, and it sounds like your daughter as well. So that's the success story in my mind.
You're right. Yeah, I'm there's no regrets, absolutely. And whenever I can put in my 2 cents here and there to somebody who will give me a listening ear, I absolutely will do so. So.
Yeah.
I mean, if for some reason, somehow, my mother-in-law, as wonderful as she is, I mean, it's a social club for her, and she's been in for many, many years. It'd be a big thing. Her husband has been, my father-in-law has been out for a long time, and he doesn't make any bones about, telling her the way the organization is, So she's heard a lot of it. Maybe one day she will wake up, and that would be fantastic, and then I won't have to hold back at all. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, then I'll write my letter of resignation. That's the only reason why I don't.
Right.
Because of her.
Right. But the thing is that people today, are voting with their feet. They're making their decision by just not going there anymore. And people want to, I think people want to just coexist. Even this new wave of witnesses that we have coming up, the younger generation of Jehovah's Witnesses, they just want to coexist. You know, I went to the grocery store tonight before we started this interview call, and the girl that was bagging my groceries, young witness girl. Well, I looked over and she smiled at me. I said hello and said, "How are your parents these days?"
She said to you?
No, I said that to her. I said, "How are your parents these days?" She smiled and she said, "They're good." And I said, "Well, I'm glad to hear it." And you know, it's I think that these younger witnesses, they are just naturally trying not to be intolerant, not to be judgmental, because that is the progressive age that we live in. That is the society that we live in, is not to judge other people, and they're coming around. And I think that ultimately that is going to be another factor in eroding the power base that Watchtower has built up.
Wow, that's a great. I hope you're right, and I kind of see that trend happening too, just in general. So that's good. That's great.
Yeah. Well, look, Dave, listening to your story, or I should say stories in the plural, has been fascinating, and your evolution is obviously welcome and great, and it's wonderful to hear. I wish you the best, you and your family. I hope that your daughter and your wife can enjoy this interview too and get involved as much as they want to. But the main thing is just to move on after Watchtower and to just have a free and happy life.
That's it. It doesn't matter. I don't feel that it really matters as much what you choose to do. I mean, some people, even some of the people that I see doing YouTube videos and different channels and websites possibly, they have found something to replace the organization. Some people are atheists, some people are agnostics, or go into a different form of religion as if there's a need to replace. I personally don't feel any need to join another club. I think the important thing is to get out of the organization. Whatever you choose to do, don't become an ex-murderer or anything, but I'm just saying, whatever you choose to do to continue a form of spirituality in some form. It doesn't have to be going to any church necessarily, but something that keeps you going, not to be of that, continue in that same mindset that you've been conditioned to believe for however long you have been, but to move ahead with it into whatever avenue you want is the important thing, whatever you choose.
Yes, erudite as always, Dave. Very well said. And I would just add that all these years we were taught about the truth, capital T, capital T. No. It's about our personal truth. It's about our personal walk through life, learning, developing, learning how to make decisions without having Big Brother tell us what to do.
Exactly. Free will is what it's all about. If we choose to believe in God or the universe or whatever, we have this brain, and it's we're given it so that we can use it to establish what sounds right to us, what resonates to us, and that's the way we choose. If we're going to examine every religion on the planet of the earth and then decide, okay, this is the right one, all the rest are wrong, I don't think that's the way to go about it at all, because it'd be impossible to do in one lifetime. You have, if it's 70 or 80 years or 100 years, there's no way you could uncover every one and decide, okay, God's going to punish me, he's going to kill me everlastingly if I don't pick the right one. What a way to live. That's a terrible way to live. Mm-hmm. But we need to use our own brains to decide what sounds right to us. And I can't imagine, a God that is going to punish you if you pick up, if you choose the wrong one out of several thousand. He says, oh, you picked the wrong one, you're going to hell. Or, fireballs are going to come out of the sky. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
No, I'm totally in agreement with you. I like the way that you think. What are you doing this weekend? Let's go have a beer.
Great. I'll meet you. Let's see. Where could we meet in between?
Well, the halfway point between you and me, geographically speaking, would be about, I don't know, El Paso, Texas.
Okay, really? Okay.
I don't know.
I better
that's just a guess.
Now, then.
Yeah.
I'm hopping in the car now.
Yeah. Okay. Isn't that how it is? We make so many friends and connections with folks that are out of the cult, that are out of the Watchtower, like ourselves, and we wish that we could have like a big reunion once a year or something. But
I know.
It's distances are what they were. So hey, look, Dave, I'm going to let you go. This has been a great interview. I want to thank you for your time and for just being willing to be candid and share your story.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you very much for the opportunity to let me speak. It's therapeutic, actually, too, to be able to do it. So thanks for the ability to do that.
It's therapeutic for all of us. I'd like to thank the listeners, the supporters of JWStruggle. The channel has just been exploding. 1,500 subscribers now. I'm getting it's just great, and I'm getting feedback every day of the week on comments, and the vast majority of them are positive. So I'd like to just take an opportunity to thank my listeners and those that are liking and subscribing. And I know there's going to be a whole bunch of you that are going to be liking this interview with Dave and are going to be able to chime in and give your thoughts on it. But again, Dave, thank you, and you have a pleasant evening. We'll talk again.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
The order is rapidly fading, for the times they are a-changing.